Hey guys, Mr. Riz here to help you out with the 221 activity. So we'll go through part one, which is what you guys will do first. And then afterwards, you guys will be working on sort of a mini project to do this. So what we're going to be doing is a little explore task about the internet and the web. So our goals is to participate in a jigsaw activity, which just means like everybody's going to be working on their own piece, and then we'll put them all together and see how the internet works. And then the goal here at the end is to research and present an assigned topic about the internet to the class. So what we're going to be looking at first is what's known as computing innovations. So have you ever stopped to think about the effort that went into making all of your cell phones or gaming consoles or even your computer you are using to read this? Thought about like all the little things, all the little details behind that. All of those things are considered computing innovations. Innovations that include a computer or a program code as the integral part of its functionality. These innovations can be physical, like a self-driving car or like a graphics card or your monitor, or think of anything that you can actually touch, a mouse, like a wireless mouse. Those are all physical, or they could be non-physical. So that could be like your picture editing software, your basically like a graphical user interface. So or they could also be a non-physical computing concept like e-commerce, or just like the internet itself is a non-physical computing concept. All right, these computing innovations can help us solve problems and allow us to pursue interests through creative expressions. Whenever you're developing a computing innovation, it's important for the developers or you to understand the innovation's purpose. Such an understanding provides developers with an improved ability to create computing innovations. So, although computing innovations take many forms, for this activity, you're going to explore what it takes to make a computing innovation for the internet specifically. And we're also going to see how that innovation affects the people exposed to it. So here's our explore task. So exploration and research are essential skills needed to become effective in any field of study. To gather a clear understanding of your computing innovation, you'll be guided through all the research steps. We'll use an approach called the explore task to guide us through the process. So I'm not sure if you guys have done this in any other class like an IED or POE, but we're going to go through the same steps that we do anytime we're trying to explore a new thing. So what we're first going to do is evaluate a topic. So first, in completing an explore task, is to identify whether or not a topic is indeed a computing innovation. So you can use the following list of questions to evaluate if something is a computing innovation and if it's a good choice to showcase. So you can, first ask, does it include a program as an integral part of its function? So, make sure you don't confuse technology innovations with computer innovations. Is it easy to see and describe what the computing innovation program does? So if you have a hard time identifying if the innovation has a program in it or not, or can't easily describe what it's doing, it probably isn't a good choice to use that as your explore task. So next, is it classified as a computing innovation as physical or non-physical computing software or a non-physical computing concept? So if it does not fall in one of these three categories, it might not be a good choice to do as an explore task. And then last thing, is the computing innovation real or is it still theoretical? Computing innovations actually exist and are usually easier to understand. So something like quantum computing, even though we're just at the cusp of like what it is, it's still more theoretical than physical at this point in time. All right, so we're going to just kind of make sure that you guys understand some of these innovations here and determine. So we got the innovation here, and you're going to match with the description. So we got a wireless router. What is a wireless router? Well, hopefully you know, like that wireless router, which is a computing innovation, is a device. Let's see, the platform is system interconnected. I'm like, no, it's a device that enables wireless network packets forwarding and routing and service the access between them. I'm sure you guys all have a wireless router at your home. Most of you guys do. I don't know how many of you guys are physically plugged into your router at home, like back in the day when everything had to be. But everything's wireless now. Which one's the social media platform? A social media platform, let's see, is a platform for communication through the web, kind of. A system of interconnected networks through the internet. an online technology that enables open community via open communication. I would probably say is it that one? Well, we're going to see which one's better. Internet and email. Okay, so all these are pretty systems. So internet, we definitely know, is a system of interconnected networks that follow the Internet Protocol Suite. So yeah, I mean, the internet is named. The internet has come its name because it's an interconnected network. They just shorten that to say internet. And email, is that a platform communication? Oh, but you know what? The internet might be the platform. Oh, let's see. This is a little tricky. So take your time. Let's see if we can kind of decipher between the two. Well, the biggest thing is that email does allow for communication. So we definitely know that. And the internet is a system of interconnected networks. So this would make sense. All right, next, we're going to complete this table using those same innovations here. Does it include a program? So you got to think about all these devices here. Is there a program that is connected between the four of them, or between? So some things are pretty obvious here, like the email. Yeah, there's a program that uses the email. We send and receive messages, so we got to have a program that knows how to decipher those and encrypt those. Same thing with the internet. There's a program. We just went over encryption and decryption. Social media platforms are used on the internet, so yes, there's got to be a program between those two. If you think about it, like we already know, like we've talked before, like when we introduced Python, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those use Python, so they got to have programs specifically for those. A wireless router might be a little different here. If you think about a wireless router is a physical device that you have, but still, like, it has to transmit that the signals coming from those, and there's got a program that connects those out, pings them to each other. And so yes, there is a program with your wireless router. And sometimes too, you guys might have seen some errors. I don't know if you guys ever had to fix your wireless router at home too, and sometimes you have to kind of reset the program. All right, what does it do? Okay, so we're going to try to make the connection here between the wireless router. All right, does the wireless router connects computers and routes data packages? That kind of makes sense. Allows for transportation of data through any network that is connected to. Kind of, right? Well, maybe. Allows people globally to communicate. Okay, so wireless router, I mean, theoretically does, but it really just gets you to the internet that does that. Allows people to communicate around the people, allows people around the world to communicate. Okay, so some of these here are pretty, if you look at these three, are very similar, which means it's probably those three. So I'm going to say the wireless router connects computers and routes data packages, which that's essentially what a wireless router does. Any device that's connected to the internet, it connects it with packages wirelessly to back and forth. All right, so we got social media platform, internet, and email. This one allows the transportation of data through any network it is connected to. Okay, allows people globally to communicate and share ideas. Now, I would probably describe that more as the social media, because social media, we want to get people from all around the world. We want them to share similar thoughts and ideas. You think about too, like Facebook was designed to connect college people together. You got Instagram people who like pictures. Now they've become bigger things than that, but typically a social media platform is to get people globally to communicate and share ideas of similar things. Okay, so we got the difference between email and the internet. All right, so the internet is it allows people to communicate, or allows transportation of data through any network that is connected to, or allows the people in the world to communicate. Well, I'd definitely say email is more about communication. You're trying to share ideas and get it back and forth with an email. You ask me a question, you send me an email, I send you a response. That's communication. The internet, though, is not just specifically for communication. You could go out there and just go get a file from a website, or you're trying to go on the internet and you might just be looking up a news article. There's no communication. You are just the one asking. And I mean, technically there is a communication because then the website sends something back, but you're just going to get something. You don't really care, you know, there's no bounce back. So we are going to say that is allows for transportation. All right, up next we have here, we're going to complete the table again. So we got our innovations here. Can we classify these as physical or non-physical? Well, your wireless router is something you guys can plug in, plug out. So that is a physical device. That is something we can see, we can touch, we can actually repair. So that might be one of the tough things about fixing wireless routers is it could be a programming issue with it, which would be non-physical, but it could also have a physical problem where, maybe the fan got clogged up full of dust and it no longer works. And so the physical problem with it caused an issue. All right. Social media, though, I mean, you can go to the Facebook, like, I'm sure they have a building. I'm sure they have a giant building, but Facebook itself is non-physical. It's this non-physical thing that only exists on the internet. And the internet itself, you won't see a bunch of wires connected. I mean, technically, there are like physical storage spaces that are part of the internet, but the internet itself is not physically located in any one spot. And email, same thing. It's a non-physical. All right. So next, does this all exist or is it all theoretical? I think this is pretty easy. Everything here exists. We have wireless routers. We have social media platforms. They do involve the internet and it's email. So last question here is to debate which of these are the following computing innovations and why. So of these four here, are these computing innovations? No problem. I need to fix that. That should be a question for you guys to take. So you guys will go through in the last part, debate, like, do these, all four of those, meet the answers that were up here? If they answer yes, or can you do yes for all of those after taking the short little quiz, are they all computing innovations? And if not, explain why. All right, when you guys are done with that, go ahead, turn it in. Now, what we're going to do next is to look at 202. So we did that right. We're going to look at the assignment that you guys are going to be working on. So what you guys are going to do here is I have a list of some computing innovations up here that I want you guys to do a deep exploration of. And so I want everybody to choose something differently. So we have like broadband and the World Wide Web and media file compressions, social media on the internet, and you can see a list here. Or if you want, you can make your own. If you have your own idea that you think would be on here, go through. So what I want you guys to do here on the discussion board post, and this is going to be first come, first serve, is to pick one of these that are on here or pick your own and then answer these following questions here. Okay. Now, if you guys want just to go ahead and pick those out, that's fine. You guys will do more than this, then actually you don't have to. I should say this. I just want you guys to pick which one you guys are going to choose, and we're going to do first come, first serve on here. Okay, so if you're like, okay, I want to do e-commerce. Okay, I want to do research on that and do a presentation about that. Type your name or just type in e-commerce and post a reply. Now double check that somebody else hasn't picked it, because if they have, they're going to do that, and you guys are going to do something else. So once you guys get that done, you have your idea what you're going to do. Next, what you're going to do is to make a basic presentation about that. And so it's going to go through these steps here to kind of understand what you guys are going to be working on. So research can be a daunting task at first if you have like no idea where to start. But to become an effective researcher, you should come up with some questions you want answered. All right, so for this explore task, there's some specific questions you need to answer and documenting them on your research. And so I kind of made a list here of what I want you guys to look up and where your guys' sources are. So we'll try to do some citation, but we're not going to do like MLA or APA. Just basically when you guys find or you make your presentation, put a little link of the URL. So, okay, you're going to find a description about what that innovation is. So, you'll make a slide on Google Slides. You'll go through, put a little tiny link to the URL. So it works there. All right, when was it made? Put it there. And how was it made? Or when was it made? Why was it made? And how was it used? So you have all those information. So if your URL source is all from the same thing, that's pretty fine. But these are four big things I want to make sure you guys denote here. Okay, so next we can talk about like our data processing. Once we have all this information, what are we going to do it? So to fully assess the computing innovation's impact on society, you must identify the type of data needed for the innovation to work. So all computing innovations must process data to fully function. So take like virtual reality or VR headsets, for example. When you wear a VR headset, your eyes are exposed to like this new world. You see this world. The headset must be worn with a computer to process the RGB values to generate visualization. All right, most headsets are equipped with some type of sensor that records the direction, that you're facing. And as you move your head, the sensor will, or the headset will store the process, the movement data is, and then to change the perspective of the image. So you're seeing a 2D image, but as you turn, it changes that 2D image to look like you're moving around. So for best results, the data stream must be seamless. So we don't want it to be chunky. The more fluid it is, actually, the more immersed you really feel like you are. So to use the internet you're going to use the internet to discover what the data process. So like, how does your innovation take data and use it for the user? So if you think about like e-commerce, how does it take the data that it gets from somebody and is out there on the internet and works together, and there's the back and forth communication, or any of those projects you think about. Talk about how data is being used. So data can just be inputs from the user. It could be information out there from other users. How is it taking the data and processing it? So now you can begin to think of the type of talent that is needed to get your innovation fully functional. So hopefully you get an idea of like, this is not just like, oh, all you do is this and this and that, and that's it. Now you can kind of think about like, it gets really complicated. So computing innovations are improved through collaborations and developed by people, by groups of people. Think of an example of like virtual reality again. The headsets needed RGB values, it needed visualizations and sensors for tracking the movement. It needed a way to store the data, a way to process the data in real time. So one person alone might have the skills to do all of this, but the task would take, forever to get done. Additionally, the perspectives and the idea and expertise of each individual member allows the product to become more efficient and more effective. So sometimes a project is big enough that many different companies will work towards a solution. So over 200 companies are currently working on a technology that can be implemented with virtual reality, which is crazy. I mean, usually you think about right now with VR, you got the one that starts with the O. Geez, I can't think of this. Oculus, but then there's other ones that are out there too. But I mean, so many things are out there they're using, and some people actually will just take the one program and be like, okay, I already have VR through Oculus. How can I just modify the code to work for my needs? Like if I'm working with like PTSD and trying to make these virtual calming stations for those people, just try to think. So you're going to answer this question too in your presentation. How many people worked on your computing invitation, and what skills are needed to make the computing invitation? So these actually will get a variety of different uses. If you go back and look at some of these things, like some of these big innovations really started with very small groups. Other innovations started with groups of thousands of people. So it kind of depends on what yours is. And so there's no real right or wrong, especially when we look at some of these like social media platforms. Like it might have been like, really, it was like what, Mark Zuckerberg making Facebook, and then he got a couple investors and able to grow his idea. So a very small group of people started with that. Okay, next we're going to talk about what kind of harmful effects it has on society. So sometimes computing innovations, while being able to do some amazing things, have some unintended side effects. Harmful effects can exist in many forms, with some of the most common being physical or mental damage, environment damage, or societal damage as well. So like if you think about some of these things out here, well, let me try to go through like an example. Well, let's think like the Uber app. That's a really common one there. That one's great because you can get a person that's out there that needs a ride, and you no longer have to call a taxi. You can outsource this to other people. So anybody can go ahead, download the Uber app, become an Uber driver. They can drive people around, which is all great because it makes finding a taxi actually way cheaper than a taxi was before. It allows people to gain a couple extra bucks. But okay, some other damages to that. One, since anybody can be a taxi driver, your car insurance goes crazy sky. Like if you actually are an Uber driver and you are not insured through your company to be a taxi driver, if you get in a car accident, your car insurance is no longer covered. So all those damages that you would have to pay upfront are there. Get kind of twisted here, but really anybody could be an Uber driver. So you can have some serial killer that just signs up to be an Uber driver, picks somebody up and just drives them out to the desert. There's really no stopping them. And then the insurance behind that. Can't really care. Like, so people learn some information. They might also find out like where you live. And so it's kind of where there's no like filtering process. Some other harmful effects are unintentional too. If you think about like the VR headsets, that's awesome. That's a great device, but VR headsets aren't for everybody. The blind cannot really use a VR headset. So these effects, even though you're making these innovations that could potentially make the whole world better, you really do kind of, cut out a select group of people. So try to think of some harmful effects of your personal device. So, they talk about VR people can get lost in those worlds. You can even think about like other, social media platforms out there. I mean, how many people have like an aunt that literally never gets off of Facebook? Or people always talked about like back in the day, like World of Warcraft, like people would live their life, or like Second Life, which became people's first life because they were being so obsessed with those. So those ones are pretty like plain black and white, but some of these innovations too just do cut out certain people like demographics, and that's just one of those harmful things. You always want to make everything inclusive, but sometimes with these innovations do cut out groups. So once you guys have those, you guys are going to make a presentation, and it goes through here what you guys need to display on those presentations. Now try to put some sources down on there as well, but I'm not expecting MLA or APA formats for that. So hopefully you guys got that first quiz done. You have your innovation picked out, and now you're going to be creating a project for it. So we will work on this for several days here. And then what you guys will do is submit this presentation on Canvas here, but also go back to your discussion board so we can work as a jigsaw to see all these. Don't go too crazy. These are not supposed to be like, giant things, but basically make sure you can go through, throw a couple images on there so people can see, but describe what those innovations are, answer those questions on a Google slide. All right, guys, good luck with this. If you have any questions, just ask, but I'm excited to see what you guys make. Have a good one.